Hello everyone, we have to discuss about that last question बचा है क्वेश्चन नंबर 24 देख लेते हैं. In the going world, the footballs and the World Cup and the Iranians team and the declines to sings and the national anthem in the solidarity and with the Iranians women and was it's the ethicals and the substantiate and yours the views and approach. In this the question candidate and need to the right amount and is the Iranians and football and teams and decisions to the declines and singings of the national anthems in solidarities and with the Iranians women and ethnics. Ethical in 7 part of the answers and the substantial and there the views. Introduction. ASLR and the national footballs and team choose not to the sings and there the countries and the anthems and before there the FIFA and World Cup and match on the Mondays and the apparent and show of the solidarity and with the anti-government protesters and the amidst and the discontent and over there the reluctances to speak out the players and where the Solomon and silent and as the anthems and was the prayer and before the match and body. Ethics and the values and play are the vital role in the shapings and the individuals and persons and profession. Ethics and the value and effectively and contributed into the developing one and the personalities and attitude towards the societies and the principle of the ethics and are the generally based on the true honesty, integrity and the justice and ethics can be the defined as other set of the rule and control by and the individuals and behavior and which are the strengthened by the society or other groups of pupils. Iron soakers and the players and did not and sings and there's the countries and nationals anthem and before and the team and first the match of the 2022 and World Cup and the against the England and the appearance and nod to the protest and that and have the spirit and worldwide and following the death of the Kurdish Iranians and women the Mahsas Amini. The protest and the sparked and in the September when the Iran's so-called morality police killed other 22 years and old women and named the Mahshas and the Aminis and for the allegedly and breaking the rules and overs the head coverings. Ethics ensures the individuals and the freedoms and as one and can the differentials and between the right and the wrong the act of the Iranian players and can be the seen as the fight against injustice and the quest for truth and the many experts and believe and that the protests are the amongst and the biggest challenges and faced by the Iranians and the few critics and the government and since the Iranian revolutions of the 1979 defenders and the Ishans and the Saf become the first players of the Iran and the national teams to open up about the anti-government and protect in the countries and they should now and that we are the with and them and we the support them and we the sympathies and they which with them and the regarding the conditions and his the further and shared we have to the accept kept the condition in our the country are not the right and ours the pupils and are not the happy and we are here and but it does not mean and we the should and not we the theirs and voice or we should not the respect them. Ethics must be the directed and towards the benefits of the others and the including self-centered characteristic and by the shings and thus the players. Act upcoming generation and build the learn and to stand the against an injustice. As country facing the criticals and the situation and protest and the engulfings and all the overs the nations and it is the morals and responsibilities and as the aware citizens to speak as the against and is the protectionism and don't least in only the gatherings and the nationals boundaries and but the gardenings and the countries from the inside against the evils and forces and which is the encroach upon the individuals and right and value are the considered and secrets scared and the are the morals and the imperatives and for them for them secret and the morals and the imperative and for those and who believes in them and the secret and value and whole value and will the seldom be the comprising and the become and they are the perceived Karar perceived as the duties and rather than and the as the factors and to be the weight in the decisions making and value are the personals in the character. They are the related to one the personals and beliefs for and choose and they generalize and the recent and from one the generation to the others and through the families or the societals and belief and the practices. This is not the first time and when the supporting stage used by the players and for the raising there's the boys and few the years and ago the best bells and players and Colin the Kaepernicks also cleaned down as the protested against the racism and the Black Lives Matter the composition during national the anthem and maintaining and silence and when the fellows and countrymen and suffers is sign and that it is the just and matter of the time and that evils forces and will also come to you and as they and see the injustice and the happenings anywhere in thread and to the justice everywhere and some values and have the interest and the worth and such as the love and the truth and freedoms other the values and such as the ambitions and responsibilities and courage and describe the trait or the behavior that are the instrumental as means and to end the end the protested and done by the Iranians and the players is highest the form of the patriotism and as even the after the death of the Mahashas and the Amini government trying to the suppress and protested as why any the means and including the killings and pupils in peaceful protest. Hence it is isn't and wrong to the utilize and supporting the platform to the raising voice and against the injustice and as the supports as the sports and units and hold the world and the gifts and the coverage worldwide. The player act the becomes and more the just feed as the Iranian government was trying to the suppress and there's the voice and why not the giving coverage and to the protect happenings and all over the countries and show the using social medias and powers and to the garners and supports and for the just and cues and from the world is the absolutely ethical and this the technological advancement and not the available for the previous generation conclusion. The act of the Iranian and footballs and team to the declines and singing the national anthem is the absolutely ethical as they gave and the freedom as the highest regarded and not just the playing and for the country but the doing their the national duty as the responsible citizens. We have to discuss about that GS paper 3 question number second. Discuss the linkage in the between organized and crime and the terrorism and including the fundings of the extremists and group of by the criminals network and the use of the criminal activities and to the support the terrorism and approach. Candidate and can start the answers and with the basic idea of the organized and crime and then how it is the nexus and impact the international security of the India's and with the different and the criminals activities and such as the drug and the traffickings and humans the traffickings and the smugglings and extortions. ले बोतल दिए introductions. There are चल मैं भाई इंट्रोडक्शन. There are the linkages between the organized and crime and the terrorism and particularly in terms of the fundings of the extremist and group of by the criminals and networks and the use of the criminals activities to support and terrorism criminals and the networks and can the provide significant and financial and resources to the extremist and group through activities and such as body in some cases and the terrorism group and the criminals network as may even the collaborates in thus the activities or the merge and to the expand and there the operations and this funding and from the criminals and network and can help to the sustains and enhances and the capabilities of extremists and group the enabling and them to carry out the attacks and recruit new members and the expected and there's the operations and it also the created other challenges and for law enforcement and agencies and who must works to the disrupt the flow of the illicits and fund and the prevents, and thus the groups and from the ascending the sensing and the resources and they needs and to the carry out and their the activities. Terrorist group and can also use the criminal activities and to support and their the operations and including money and laundering and the confiscations and the smugglings and of the goods and the weapons, and thus the criminal activities and providing other source of fundings and the resources for the terrorism operations and can the help to the increase there the power and influences the linkage and between the organized and crime and the terrorism pose other significant threat to the global security and the stabilities and iron scenarios in India's and the linkages between the two exist and aid the national and internationals and transnational level and aid the national level, and both the terrorism and those involved in the organization crimes and are the within India's and at the international level collaboration exists between the transnationals and the syndicates and the terrorists and from the inside and the outside India and the India proximity and to the drug and the producing and regions and like the golden crescent and in the western and the golden triangle in the east and has the always and been other hues of the worries in the northeasterns and extortions in the fundamental basis for the fundings all the forms of terrorism in the additions and to this the kidnappings has been the used and extremely and for the spendings terror and the raping racings and funds and within funds and humans the traffickings and drug by the trafficking and by the runnings and are the some of the others and criminal activities and that have been and the commons in thus the areas in Jammu and Kashmir and the counterfeits and currencies and has been other major sources of funding and for the terrorism in the most and terror movement explosions is it again other common phenomenons. They have also the indulged in the robberies and of the bank to fund theirs the movement, and there have also been the reports and of the cuts and being the enforced and on the drug yieldings crops in the regions, and the Indian and the Mujahideen have also the resource and to crime to the race and funds, and this the includes and robberies, kidnappings, etc. Government and law the enforcement agencies and around the world are the workings and to the disrupts and thus the networks and the cut off theirs the sources of funding in orders to the weakers and their availability to carry out their the criminal and the terrorist activities. Conclusion: effort and to the counter the linkages and between the organization crimes and terrorism involve the targeting the financials and network there the support and thus the group as well as the working to prevent the requirement of the new members and disrupting and the supply chains, disrupting supply chain and there the enables and there the operation, and this the required and international cooperation and the coordination among law the enforcement agencies, intelligence service and government around the world. Question number 3: discuss the challenges in balancing in human rights and the civil liberties and with the need and for the international security in India approach. Candidate can start the answer and with the giving basic ideas and about the Indian and the situation with the related and to the internal and security and human rights and civil the liberties, and then the explains and the multifaceted and challenges in the balancing on both the right and to the Indian diversities and complexity. And introduction: India has the diverse and populations and the complex securities and environments and including the insurgencies and terrorism and the communals and violence, and while the ensuring international security is essential to the safeguard citizens and protected the territorial and integrities of the country and the maintain public orders, and this cannot be the done and at the cost of the human rights and civil liberties body. The challenges in the balancing human rights and the civil liberties and with the need for international security in India are the multifaceted and the complex. Some of the keys and challenges include the message of the securities laws and the government and has been and the accused and of the missing mistering and the societies and low to the suppress and politicals and the decide and intimidate and the journalist activities and civil societies and organization. This has the resulted in the arbitrary and the detentions and the tortures and the extrajudicial and killings, which have the raised and concern about the impact of the such measures and on the civil liberties and the human rights. Communal violence in India has other history of the communal violence and which is the often an estimate from the tensions and related and to the religious ethnic or the linguistic differences and balancing the public safety and the protecting the rights of the individuals and the communities and is other challenging and task and particularly and when the government and policies and the actions and favors one the community and overs the another. Independence of the judiciaries and the independence of the judiciaries and is the essential to the ensuring that the government's action are the consistent and with the rule of law and the as respected the right of the citizens. And however and there has been the concern and about the independence of the judiciary in India and the particularly in cases and related to the internal security and the communal violence, transparency and the accountability. The lack of the transparency and accountability in government action and related to the internal security and communal violence is other significant challenges, and this can the make it the difficult for the citizens to hold the government accountable for any the abuses of powers or the violations of rights and weak institutions and including the law enforcement agencies and the judiciary and can limits the governments and the ability to balance and the internal security and human rights and strengthens the institutions and is essential and to the ensuring and that the government actions and are the consistent with the rule of the law and the expected. The role of the law and the action and the respect and the rights and of citizens measure the challenges in the misuse and of the anti-terrorism and the security laws and by the authorities and to the suppress and political dissent and the intimated and journalist and activities and civil society organization. There has been the instead of the extrajudicial and killings the arbitrary and the detentions and the tortures and in the name of the internal securities, and this has the raised and concern about the impact of such the measures and on the civil liberties and the human rights. Another the challenges in the persistence of the communal violence and which has other long history in India road and the inter and the religion conflict and has led and to other loss of the lives and damage to the property and the displacement of the and communities as thus the indicate. Thus, the incidents and often the stems and from the tensions and related to the religion, ethnics and or the linguistics and differences and addressing such the violences requires either delicate balance and between the ensuring and public the safety and the protecting the rights of the individuals and the communities. The Indian and the government has the taken and misses to the address and thus the challenges such and the enacting laws to the protected and the right of the marginalized and the communities strengthens the independence of the judiciary and the investing in community policing. The conclusion, however, there is the still and so much and the work and to be the done and to the ensures that the internal security and measures are the consistent with the human rights and civil liberty, and this the required and strong the institution transparency are accountability and the mechanism and either commitment to upholding the rule of law. Question number 4, analysis. Analysis the challenges and posed and to the India's and the international security by the use of the communication network and including the internet and mobile phones by the extremists and the criminals and groups, and discuss the measures and taken by the government to the monitor and prevent the spread of extremist and the propagandas and the illegal activities online. Approach. In this the question and candidate need to the write about the challenges and poses to the Indies international security by use of the communication network and by the extremist group. In the second part, write write about measures and taken by the government to prevent the spreadings and the extremist and the propagandas and the illegal activities online. Introduction: the internet and has become the major tools for the extremists and the criminals to carry out and their activities and posing the significant challenges to India internal security. And some of the key challenges and include the cybercrime and the radicalizations and fake news and the misinformations and the disruptings and critical infrastructure. Government has taken the various steps to the tackle thus the illegal activities. Bodies challenges to the India's and the international security through the internet and by the use of the extremists and the criminals and cyber crimes and the criminals and are using the internet and to the carry out other range of the activities including the identity and theft and fraud and the cyber attack. And thus the activities can the harms and individuals and organization and the compromising sensitive information. Radicalizations and extremists are using and the internet to spread and their ideologies and the recruits and individuals and into their the organization, and this has led to and the increase in the radicalizations and the terrorism in India. The fake news and the misinformations: the internet has made it the easy for extremists and the criminal to spread the false informations and the disinformations and which can the cause communals and the political and tensions and harms the individuals and society. Data privacy and the widespread and use of the internet and has the raised concern and about the data privacy with the increasing amount of the personal and information being the shared online, and there is other risk of this information and the being and the misuse or the stolen and by the extremists and the criminals and the disruptions to the critical infrastructure and the cyber attacks and on the critical infrastructure and such as the powers and grids and the financial system and can cause and the widespread disruptions and the rose other significant threat to the national security in encryptions. The use of the encryptions and by the extremists and the criminals and can the makes it is the difficult and for the law enforcement and the agencies to the monitors and the prevented and their activities. Overall the internet and has the becomes the major tools and for the extremists and the criminals and to the carry out and their the activities and posing the significant challenges and to the India's international security. It is the important for the government and individuals and to be the aware of those the challenges and take the appropriated measures to address them. Challenges and posed to the India's and internal security and by use of the communications and networks like the mobiles and internet. India internet and internals and the security is facing either numbers of the challenges and due to the widespread and use of the communication networks such as the mobile phones and the internet. And some of the key challenges include the cyber crimes and the increasing use of the internet and the mobile phones and has led to other rise and by the cybercrime in India, and this the includes and the cyber attacks and the identity theft and fraud and the others critical criminals activities and that can the compromising and sensitive information and harms the individuals and the organization. Radicalizations: the internet and the mobile phones and they have made it the easier and for the extremists and group to the spread and their the ideologies and the required and individuals, and this has the resulted in and the increase in the radicalizations and the terrorism in India. Fake news and the misinformations and the internet and the mobile phones and has made it the easy to the spread and false the information and the disinformation which can the lead to the communals and political tensions and the causes harms and to the individuals and society. Data privacy: the widespread use of the communication network and has also the raised and concern about data privacy, and with the increase and amount of the personal information being the shared online, and there is the risk of the disinformation being the misused or the stolen and the disruptions to the critical infrastructure and the cyber attack on the critical infrastructure and such as the powers and grid and financial systems and can cause the widespread and the disruptions and pose other significant and threat to the national security. security. Overall, the increasing and use of the communications and network has created the both opportunities and the challenges for India's internal security, and it is the important and for the government and the individuals and to be the aware of thus the challenges and take the appropriated measures to address them, and measures taken and by the Indians and government and to the monitor and prevent the spread of the extremist, and the Indians and government has taken the several measures and to the monitor and and prevent the spread of the extremist in the countries, and including the monitoring of the social medias the government has been and the monitoring social medias, the platforms and such as the Facebooks and Twitters and the WhatsApp, and to the identified and the counters and the spirit of the extremist and the ideologies, and prevent the recruitment of the individuals and into the terrorist and groups. Cyber crimes units and the government and has and is established and the cyber crimes unit and within the law enforcement and the agencies to investigate it and the prosecute and the individuals and involved in the cyber crimes, and including the cyber terrorism and prevention of the disruptive and activities, and the preventions act and the preventions of disruptive activities and prevention act, and the empowers the government and to take the action against the individuals and the organization involved in the spirit of the extremist ideologies and act of the terrorism, counter terrorism and the counter and the radicalizations and the measures the government has the implemented and various the counter terrorism and counter radicalizations and measures including and the radicalizations and programs and public the awareness and compositions to prevent the individuals and from the becoming and the involved in the extremist and activities in cooperations and with the international organizations, and the government has been the cooperating and with the international organizations such as the Interpol and the United Nations, and to exchange the information and the best practices on the preventing the spread of the extremist and the terrorist. Conclusion. Overall, the Indians, the government is taking other comprehensive and approach to the monitors and prevent the spread of extremists in the country. However, it is the continued process, and there is also room for the improvement and the adoption of new the measures, and as the that thread involved. And question number 5, discuss the role of the medias and the social networking side in the spreading and disinformations and the decentralizations and international security in India. Analyzes the measures and taken by the government and other the stakeholders to promote media's literacy and the prevents the spread of the false information approach. Candidate can start the answer and with the giving some basic the ideas and fake news, disinformations and how it's the is impacting and international security, and analyzes the step and taken by the government to address the spread of false information. Introduction. Fake news and is not other new and the phenomenons, and which is the linkage and to the rise of the social medias and on the contraries from the time of the ancient Greece, and it is the important and for the government medias and organization and the technologies and companies and to take the measures and to prevent the spread of fake news and the misinformation. Body. The role of the medias and the social networking side in the spreading disinformation and destabilizing Destabilizing international security in India is the growing concern, and some of the key and ways in which they contribute to this the issues are spread of the fake news and social networking side, and the traditional medias and outlets and are the often used to the spread false or the misleading information known as the fake news, and this the fake news and can be the used to spread the propagandas and show the divisions and the create the panics, and all of which and can the undermines and international security in India, and implications and of the misinformation and social media and the algorithm and are designed and to the amplified and content, and that the generated and engagement, and which is the means and that the misinformation can the spreads and repeatedly and widely on thus the platforms, and this can lead and to the spread of the false information and harmful and the conspiracies and theory, and which can and the destabilize and internal and security and the polarization of the society. The social medias and the traditionals. traditional medias and can also the contribute to the polarization of the society and by the amplifying the voice and that the promotes and decision divisions and marginalized and the alternative perceptives and this can lead to the social unrest and the contributor to the internal and the security threat manipulations of the public opinions and social medias and media's outlet and can be the manipulated by the state and non-state actors to spread the disinformation and the manipulated and the public opinions and this can the undermines the democratic process and the lead to the destabilizations of the internal security. There are the several measures and being the taken by the government and the other stakeholders and to the promotes and media and literaries and the prevent the spread of the false information. Some of the key initiatives are media and the digital literacy program in the government and various the organisms and are the promoting medias and the digital literacy programs to educate and the citizens about the responsibles and medias and consumptions and how to the identified and place the information. Thus the programs aims to the equip and the individuals and with the skills and knowledge and to the critically and evaluates and the information and the protect themselves from the disinformations and the fact checking efforts and has been the established and by the various organizations and medias and the outlets and to the verify the accuracy of the information being the spread on the social medias and other the platform and thus the efforts and aims to the identified and counter false and information before it is can the spread and cure the harms and tech enables and solution technology companies and the startup and are the developing and innovative and solution to the counter and false the information and promote the media literacy and for examples and social medias and platforms are using the machines and learning the algorithm and to the identified and the remove false information and the are the partnerings and with the fact and checkers and to the promote accurate information on collaborations and with the stakeholder and the government and the others organizations are the collaborating and with the stakeholder and including the technology company and media the organization and civil the society and groups to promote the medias and literacy and prevent the spread of the flash information and this the collaborations is aims it the creating the multi-stakeholder and approach to the address the issues and the promoting the coordinated and efforts to the counter disinformation regulatory measures the government and is the also the exploring regulatory and the measures and to the address the spread of the false information and promote media literacy and for example some the countries has the introduced and law to the regulates and the spread of the false information on the social medias and the government of India has the introduced guidelines and for the social media's platform to the regulate the spread of the false information conclusion and the promoting the media's literacy and the preventing the spread of the false information required are the multi-stakeholder approach that involve the government and media organization technologies companies and the citizens. It is important to the contribute to developed and the implemented and the innovative and solutions to address and this the issues and promotes other well informed and digitally and literacy society evaluates the measures and taken by the government and to enhance digital and the security and prevent the cyber crimes and including the money launderings. Question number 6 देखते हैं.